everyone, it's Bella. I am here to do the yearly chart for South Africa. This is a general astrology horoscope update of the topics potentially activated in the mundane return and ingress charts for South Africa, looking at the solar return for the year summary, the Aries Ingress for the first 6 months, and the Libra Ingress for the last 6 months until next April of 2025, including the solar arc, secondary progressions, profection, eclipses, and firdaria. I use mostly Hellenistic approaches for the birth chart of South Africa of 27 April 1994 at 0000 hours, as it marked the importance and the beginning of the first day that every South African had the freedom to cast a vote, as this was seen as a turnaround switch at that moment of that day. The interpretation of the radix astrology chart is based on the given birthday, time, and location. These interpretations must be considered as suggestions and possibilities. The public is invited to reflect upon the interpretations and assess if they are worthy of being taken into consideration and implemented or not. The public should also know that the astrology chart reflects a potential, but does not offer a guarantee for that potential due to free will. On the heels and under the scope of a full moon in Scorpio, on April 23rd, the umbrella moon for our country's birthday, and ending in government, our 10th house, and Saturn reborn as a morning star on the 18th of April, the ruler of our Aquarius ascendant, while we are in a Saturn return phase. This year truly signals, amongst so many other signals, a rebirth and a maturation phase for South Africa. Before I continue, I would like to mention that I do go into great detail in this podcast, and if it is not something that you would like to listen to and you would rather go to the summary part of this podcast, you can forward onto that timestamp. I will put that in the comments below so that it's easier for you to just listen to sort of the summary version of it. I do know that some people prefer to listen to the detail, but not everybody has the time for that. So let's continue. The solar return summary for 27 April 2024 to 27 April 2025. The rising sign of Taurus graces the solar return chart for South Africa, bringing us back to our foundation as a country. It also brings the 4th house to the forefront for the year, which deals with the 4th house. Land, the owners of it, the workers on it, crops and produce of the land, mines and buildings. The people as contrasted with the monarch, democracy as contrasted with aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. A planet close to the cusp of this house may influence the weather. A malefic in this house may affect the government or afflict the government through its opposition to the 10th. This is the areas that are now brought to quite a focus in our 1st house. It can indicate an election to the people's attention, 1st house. Taurus ruled by Venus can indicate a partnership in government. The sun in Taurus in the 1st house puts the president or government's attention on the 1st house. The country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity as well as its health. This also brings financial issues to the forefront as Taurus deals with finances. The country is in a full moon lunar phase overall this year as a backdrop umbrella, which denotes a ripening. The plant has matured and reached its peak of expression, primarily exploring the dynamics of partnering, which can indicate an important partnership either governmental, as the natal moon sits in the 10th house of government, or financially, with foreign partners, as the moon in the solar return chart is in the 8th house of Sagittarius. It usually is a catalyst for great periods of growth and success. Throughout the year, we may be working with and learning about the tension of opposites and what it means to work in harmony with people who are different from us, or in the case of rulership, getting along in government. That can also bring the public's attention to topics such as public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries, hidden agendas and manipulative behavior in regards to fraudulent financial topics connected to the past. This can also be revealed more and become quite a significant focus for the public, as this is an area of destiny for the year, where destiny plays out. Now, the moon rules over the 3rd house and can therefore also affect or connect to all means of inland transit, locomotion, communication, railways, road and river traffic, cars, etc. All means of disseminating news and information, such as the post office, communication networks, internet, telephone, faxes, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications and periodicals. And it also deals with electricity, neighboring nations, and infrastructure topics. The dispositor is also in the 1st house, affecting the country and its people as a whole. So we can also experience more deaths of brethren in general. Now, partnerships regarding financial solutions to the above topics of the 3rd house can play out, as I mentioned, with whether it's electricity, infrastructure, all of those areas can now also be more connected to partnership. Very much necessary, as recently the Limpopo villagers abandoned by the government are now planning on sinking their own borehole, another step in independent action, as this last solar eclipse in the 3rd house of infrastructure highlighted. That was the April 8 total solar eclipse. The moon's dispositor, Jupiter, is in the 1st house, affecting the country and its people as a whole. It's also conjunct Uranus, the awakener, and the planet that rules electricity, which again points to possible solutions in this area. And since the sun, government, and ruler, such as the president, is also in this house, it can be a main focus for the year. I would also like to add, as I didn't mention that in the beginning, that I do not go over President Ramaphosa's natal chart, as we do not have the correct timing for it. So therefore I focus on the radix chart of South Africa rather, as a general guide. Shocking Uranus has a general influence over rioting and outbreaks and political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs, discoveries, explosions, accidents, surprises, anarchy, and nihilism. And this is Uranus sitting in our 1st house in the solar return chart, conjunct Jupiter, the ruler of the moon. And Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks, and bankers. Therefore, all of these subject matter is now as a focus point for us in our 1st house in the solar return, which serves as an umbrella really for the entire year's theme, with the Aries and Libra ingresses underneath that. Therefore, with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which in our radix chart sits in the 4th house, angular, affecting every major area in our country, is now also angular, but brought to the 1st house, which is incredibly powerful. And therefore, unforeseen changes, riots, miracles in regards to electricity, government, issues, and all of the above is possible, not to mention sudden shifts affecting banking also with the recent Saturn return in Pisces and the BRICS connection. This can also indicate radical Uranus means of change regarding the elections and the new government. And when I mean radical, I also mean unusual and surprising. This can also bring aspects to the fore, such as discoveries, major discoveries, such as, a diamond or something of that sort, since this natally sits in our 4th house as well and deals with mines. So it can bring out a discovery of something quite unusual. It can also bring about natural disasters, accidents. It can connect to the railways. It can connect to airplanes. It can connect to absolute, earthquake events, nature events, all, and not just earthquakes as in the land, but sort of other earthquakes too, like emotional earthquakes, and other breakthroughs are possible with this energy. The moon is at the 2nd degree of Sagittarius, and therefore the Sabian symbol reads as white-capped waves displaying the power of wind over sea, leading to an elevation in character for us this year. The moon trines Mars with a almost 4 degree, 52 minute separating trine. And this can bring courage to make a move towards what we know we need to do, taking the lead, taking action to make the changes happen. As the moon, of course, is the people as well, and trining Mars gives us great courage. Mars also governs the military, soldiers, noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. The moon also trines Neptune at a 2 degree 39 minute orb separating, and Neptune deals with socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. Its urge is towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss, and vice. The moon is also sextile Pluto with a 0 degree orb and 39 minute applying. The moon sextile Pluto transit exposes deeply buried emotions and secrets. Anything that is in a state of decay can be reborn now. You can deeply probe under the surface to solve mysteries and investigate crimes and secrets. As Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. Again, various modern authors include the following in its mundane signification, which is also refuge and excrement, sewers, all aspects of life that are carried on in the dark or hidden from public view, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, all activities that are transformative like death and rebirth, or that bring hidden information to light. The sun. The sun represents the prime minister, the monarch, the aristocracy, magistrates, judges, and all persons in authority and of distinction, cabinet ministers, and the like. It also represents public heroes and national champions. In Taurus, the 1st house, and this can indicate that much of the energy of those in charge will be spent on making your world more secure, Self-development is a major theme of the year, and sport can definitely be a big highlight this year. The first house represents the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. The sun rules the fourth house, the land, the owners of it, and the workers on it, the crops and produce of the land, mines, buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, democracy as contrasted with aristocracy, the opposition in parliament, and therefore this, as in this chart, the sun rules the fourth house and brings it into the first house. This is like bringing the opposition in parliament as the focus here as well. Its dispositor is Venus, situated in Aries in debility, the 12th house. Prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad. Hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. This could indicate an end of the president's reign or the end of government at present. The sun also rules the 7th house natally, which can bring our attention again to partnerships. The 7th house also deals with foreign affairs, relations with other countries, whether friendly or hostile, political or commercial. The ruler of the 4th and the 1st also brings 4th house topics again to the forefront, as well as gains regarding those topics. The sun is in a separating square to Pluto. The message this year is time to change your habits to the rulers of South Africa and their underlying psychological triggers. If the government and current ruler or president has not lived up to their promises, they will face the music. It does look like the president is out. This can denote power struggles, manipulation, jealousy, domination tendencies, spying, but positively it can bring strength and motivation to work hard, struggle through difficulties, and achieve goals. The sun conjunct ascendant applying again places an emphasis on the government and the leadership and the president of the country, and that matters. Voting, etc. are to take center stage this year. The sun square midheaven applying indicates that this is a year for advancement, for some effort, patience, and persistence. The sun in the 1st can also mean the people are taking charge. It also brings the ruler of the natal 7th house of Leo partnerships to the forefront again as partner, dual parties. Therefore, we can expect a coalition. Now, Mercury governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues. Mercury places in Aries the 12th house in this chart. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country and home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, and possible secret societies and occult religions. So this can also indicate that someone or something is not as it seems, not acting in our best interest, and Mercury rules the 2nd and the 5th houses, which are also financial houses. The 2nd house deals with the national wealth, the executor, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The 5th house deals with theaters, public houses, all places of amusement, entertainment, and pleasure, the birth rate, children, sexual concerns, sport, speculation, gambling. Some consider that it is connected with high society and advisors to the king, formal social functions. It has also been suggested that this relates to the House of Lords, the opposition of the 11th. And traditional astrologers included ambassadors under this house. Therefore, a connection or connections to these topics mentioned could be kept in the dark or denote corruption of some kind or loss. Mercury is also conjunct Chiron and the North Node, separating, denoting also a time of turning old wounds into medicine instead. Mercury governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues, which again connects to the past and the pain from the past, putting it in the past, voting, as well as electricity issues, making new connections for future solutions, as the dispositor Mars sits in the 11th house of Parliament, especially the House of Commons, town and country councils, and similar bodies, friends of the nation, legislation. On the other hand, it can indicate finality and finishing up of these issues that caused much suffering. Venus governs women's issues, the national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage, partnerships, decisions, and children, artists, musicians, and the arts. Faculties or facilities for sport and entertainment, and it also deals with peace and diplomatic resolutions. Now, Venus is in Aries, which can indicate loss or endings or secrecy to the topics mentioned, taking risks or initiating something new in regards to the topics mentioned. Venus also rules finances and partnerships. Therefore, there can be a new partnership that deals with leadership, Aries, or the ending of something previous, as if it's a new partnership. Venus here will move ardently towards it. Venus is in the 12th house that deals with finalizing or ending. Prison, reformatories, criminal spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, secret societies, and occult religions all fall under the 12th house. She sits at the 26th degree of Aries, which is the Sabian symbol of a man possessed of more gifts than he can hold. Venus also rules the 1st and 6th houses. The 1st house deals with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. The 6th house deals with public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, the national services, army, navy, and civil service as servants of the country, workers and employees generally, and trade unions. Venus's dispositor Mars is in the 11th house of Pisces, which again can denote government connections or a benefactor or foreign connections, even legislation, as the 11th house deals with Parliament, House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation, and legislation. Venus is conjunct Chiron in the 12th, separating. Venus governs women's issues, like I've mentioned, national birth rate, diplomatic solutions and resolutions, marriage and children, art, musicians, and facilities for sport and entertainment. There is a possibility of the ruler in the 6th, in the 12th, of illness, loss of jobs, servants of the country work in or on something of a secret or hidden nature, corruption, secrets regarding the health industry, and or connecting to employment or new legislation in regards to these topics. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. Mars is in Pisces in the 11th house, which deals with Parliament, especially the House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation, and legislation. This year, Strife is rife in groups and possibly in parliament due to voting. There may be impatience with allies, group, committee processes, or someone else may be causing trouble. Torn between two parties, there can be a tendency to want to assert strong will or laws onto others with seemingly good intentions that causes separations. But if others disagree, there can be strong opposition and rebellion, especially as we have the Uranus-Jupiter from the 4th to the 1st during the solar return, which can bring uprisings, either way you look at it. But it can also bring breakthroughs. The ruler of the 7th in the 11th, friends can become public opponents or enemies. Ruler of the 12th in the 11th, unfortunate undertakings, disappointments or obstacles, deceitful friends, and losses through advice of acquaintances need to be cautioned for. This also places the natural second house of financial Pisces in the 11th, denoting new laws regarding finances or banking, possibly. Mars sits at 27 degrees Pisces, applying to a conjunction to Neptune, a finalization, a harvest, with the ruler in the first house affecting the whole country and its inhabitants. Neptune rules socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. Its urge is towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss, and vice. Could this denote action towards financial socialism topics? Mars also rules the 7th house, foreign affairs, relations with other countries, whether friendly or hostile, political or commercial, the national marriage and divorce rate. Mars also rules the 12th house of prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country, at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, and possible secret societies and occult religions. Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks, and bankers. Jupiter in Taurus, the first house. The first house deals with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. This is South Africa's year to grow, to learn and fly, and with our larger-than-life presence, we can do this in just about any area, with Jupiter sitting here. We may be in for a bit of a wild ride this year as plans take on a life of their own, and we may need to temper some of our plans or actions with a little moderation. We feel renewed and ready to make the most of opportunities, as opportunities will be presented this year, but it is up to us to make use of those opportunities. Jupiter sits at the 24th degree of Taurus, which is the Sabian symbol, an Indian human scalps hanging at his belt. Rides proudly. I'll read that again. An Indian human scalps hanging on at its belt rides proudly, denoting a win. Jupiter also rules the 8th house and the 11th house. The 8th house deals with public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries. The 11th house, Parliament, especially the House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation, and legislation. The dispositor is Venus in Aries, the 12th. The ruler of the 8th in the 1st, legacies and money through affairs connected with foreign connections. Ruler of the 11th in the 1st, the native meets with real friends and supporters, can overcome enemies, obstacles through the support of acquaintances. Many hopes can be attained, fortunate actions, denoting a positive outcome. Jupiter sits natally in the 10th of government. Therefore, I am optimistic at a very positive outcome for South Africa with these elections. Jupiter is conjunct Uranus, separating. Uranus rules and has general influence over rioting, outbreaks of political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, anarchy, nihilism, surprises, accidents. It also deals with reversals, indicating a sudden breakthrough and scientific discoveries and solutions regarding electricity this year, as well as revolutionary energy and support and growth financially. Saturn in Pisces. Saturn has chief influence over elderly people and governs the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow and disappointment. Saturn is in the 11th house that deals with Parliament, House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation and legislation. Therefore, we can expect legislation or possible obstacles regarding the above topics, as well as topics regarding water quality, water issues, mental health, the medical system, and religion, not to mention again finances. We are starting a new 2-year cycle in our financial house, as well with a Mars-Saturn conjunction in Pisces of sort of a end of the old and the beginning of the new meeting together. This year, Parliament is changing due to a new government. Our lesson is to treat each other and partners, colleagues, with integrity. This is also during our Saturn return, which lasts until 2025. And with Saturn now being reborn as a morning star, I am optimistic for our financial future, as well as the future of our government and country as a whole. Saturn rules the 9th and 10th houses. The dispositor Jupiter is in the 1st. The 9th house deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, and long-distance traffic generally, whether connected with passengers or commerce, long-distance or international communications, religions, the churches, preachers, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions, and publications. The 10th house deals with the monarch or president, the government, people in authority, royalty, eminent and famous persons, national trade, the national reputation, credit and power, public employment rate. The ruler of the 9th and the 11th can indicate suffering on account of religious or other convictions or values, fortunate friendships on voyages, friends among foreigners and foreign lands, acquaintances among foreign connections, scientists and legislators. Uranus in Taurus. Uranus has general influence over rioting and outbreaks of political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs, discoveries, surprises, accidents, explosions, the railway system, aeroplanes, anarchy, and nihilism, as well as electricity and earthquakes. Uranus is in the 1st house. The country and the inhabitants as a whole is affected here, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. Uranus also deals with sudden reversals and sudden breakthroughs, denoting possible riots and outbreaks of political tension. But regardless, it sits at the 23rd degree of Taurus, with a Sabian symbol, a jewelry shop filled with the most magnificent jewels. Could this indicate a fortunate breakthrough financially and governmentally, as it sits in the 4th radix at the moment. In Pisces, Neptune rules socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. Its urges towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss, and vice. Neptune is in the 11th house that deals with Parliament, House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation, and legislation. This year, we may discover the art of true partnerships and understand the worth of a good parliament. Neptune indicates loss or endings here, and also a beautiful blend of more than one into one whole. Any underlying motives will be made aware of. There is always the possibility of deception or secrets where Neptune is. Broken dreams from the past can have a chance to be brought back to life, and we can have new hopes and ideals for the future. This again points to the duality of the sign of Pisces ruling over this 11th house, again bringing two to the front. Neptune sits at 29 degrees of Pisces, which is an anaretic degree. The Sabian symbol for it is a prism. It's also sextile Pluto with an orb of 3 degrees and 18 minutes applying. Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration of our 11th house of legislation. Various modern authors include the following in its mundane signification: refuge and excrement, sewers. Maybe with this sextile, there will be attention put to these areas. All aspects of life that are carried on in the dark or hidden from public view, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, all activities that are transformative, like death and rebirth, or that bring hidden information to the light, which can indicate a change of different perspectives and angles working together. A chance at regeneration in government. South Africans wrote the book on this. This time we come with experience. Pluto. Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. I just went over it. I'm not going to go over it again. Pluto is in Aquarius and in the 10th house. The 10th house is the monarch or president, the government, people in authority, royalty, eminent and famous persons, the national trade, national reputation, credit and power, public employment rate. Prepare for your date with destiny, as Pluto is influencing South Africa's life direction. And the time has come to reassess the government and rulers' influence in society, their role as an authority in their field, title, and status. Change has come, complete and permanent change. Matters of power will be prominent as new leadership is about to take charge. But we are advised to work to the best of our ability and cooperate, not going head to head. Responsibility is added. This adds the importance of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the first with Pluto on the 10th, squaring. The people are taking charge of their independence, their rights, and their freedoms. This is a revolutionary energy that denotes a complete and radical turnaround and transformation, a huge upgrade with the level of impact as we saw in 1994. As this year, 2024 into 2025, is a historical year. Conjunct the midheaven with an orb of 3 degrees and 31 minutes separating. Chiron is in Aries in the 12th house. We may decide to be brave and brave the unknown and attempt something we've always previously been afraid to try. So are we finally putting the pain behind us and being brave enough to merge and truly partner this country? The North Node is in Aries. The North Node's in the 12th house at 16 degrees. Expositor Mars in Pisces in the 11th house of legislation and friends of the nation. We are now ready to make a practical assessment of our current options and gradually implement any necessary changes as we move forward. Aries Ingress. We begin with a Pisces rising chart. We begin the year with a spiritual approach, more compassionate towards others, but it brings the second house of finances as a feature for the next 6 months. From basically March forward to September. Adjustments may need to be made. This chart is valid for 6 months. It brings the second house to the fore, which deals with the national wealth, the executor, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. It also emphasizes a new 2-year cycle in this area of finance and banking. This brings up topics such as BRICS to the fore and financial spending and delegation. The global south, which accounts for 85% of the world's population, is on the margins and outliers in terms of global decision making, while political and financial institutions are still dominated by a select few in the West. Excuse me, said Anil Suklal, South Africa's ambassador to the BRICS. We have almost a system akin to apartheid, South Africa, where the minority decides for the majority. And that's still the situation on the world stage today. We don't want to be told what is right for us. We want the fault lines of the current global governance architecture to be redesigned, to be reformed, to be transformed. And we want to be part of the process to create a more equitable and more inclusive and multipolar global community where we have fairness and justice in terms of how we conduct ourselves, offering alternative currency options to challenge dollar dominance and the possibility of expanding the grouping of 5 to include other countries, says Anil Suklal. The Pisces placement for our Pisces rising Aries Ingress chart also brings up topics such as health, water quality, flooding, all water connected events, including also drownings, the underrepresented, the orphan minorities, mourning, endings, change, and compassion fatigue on world events to the forefront. We already see the rampant water cuts possibly threatening national security of elections. We recently also had a cruise liner colliding with a cargo ship in the Cape Town harbor on the 5th of April, not to mention the flooding in other areas and droughts in others. The lunar phase for this chart is a first quarter phase, which is a period to reassess, to make adjustments, make the changes, and move forward with determination. It symbolizes a time of action, decisions, and commitment in the next 6 months. The moon denotes the common people, the women in general, crowds, and all matters of a common or public nature. The position of the moon in a mundane chart will show where the public attention falls. The moon is in Leo, and it's in the 6th house. And the sun is ruling the 6th house of the chart, indicating that government is also focused on matters to do with work schedules, health, and national services, as this is a Leo leadership house. The sixth house deals with public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, national services such as the army, the navy, civil service as servants of the country, workers and employees in general, and also trade unions fall under the sixth house. It brings the radix 7th to the 6th, and this year we can make lemonade with lemons. Positively, we can already see since the Aries Ingress, Gauteng EMS, for example, welcoming 1,120 new emergency care interns. This can also be a time of military action in the next 6 months. The moon also rules the 5th house, which deals with theaters, public houses, all places of amusement, entertainment and pleasure, the birth rate, children, sexual concerns, sports, speculation, gambling. Some consider that it is connected with high society, formal social functions. It's also connected to the House of Lords as the opposition of the 11th. Traditional astrologers included ambassadors under this house. This also covers the youth. Since the radix 7th moves to the 6th, it can also imply some connection to debt and also a focus on enemies. Military enlisting or deployment, as the dispositor sits in Aries, a war-igniting sign with the North Node that connects to the world axis. The dispositor of the moon, the sun, is in the 2nd house of Aries, of new beginnings. The 2nd house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. We can denote new commitments and beginnings regarding finance and banking, and a strong forward movement here. The aspects of the moon is trine the sun with an orb of 3 degrees and 49 minutes separating, and this can indicate a victory, or that a certain people are mostly satisfied with the general turnout of the elections on the 29th of May 2024. This harmonious aspect denotes a new chapter in South Africa's history, where the moon represents the people, the sun represents the prime minister, monarch, aristocracy, magistrates, judges, and all persons in authority and of distinction, cabinet members. It also represents public heroes and national champions. But that said, it is also trine to Neptune, but there is an orb of 6 degrees separation. The moon is in opposition to Pluto with an orb of 2 degrees separating, and Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. Various modern authors include the following in its mundane signification: refuge and excrement, sewers, all aspects of life that are carried on in the dark or hidden from the public, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, and all activities that are transformative, like death and rebirth, or that brings hidden information into the light. So we can see that the moon opposing Pluto like this will be bringing out a lot as far as hidden agendas are concerned, and there will be a rebalancing and an integration that needs to take place into taking care of topics such as sewers, violence, power, and anything such as organized crime or the above topics mentioned. And all of this, which can indicate facing power dynamics, strong emotional upheaval in regards to the 6th house and the 12th house. The 6th house deals with public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, the national services, the army, the navy, civil service, servants of the country, workers and employees in general, and trade unions. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country, at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies and occult religions, corruption. Powerful endings and regeneration possibilities are here. A witness, a testimony of a rebirth after 30 years of growing pains, but also more deaths, a balance of power, indication as the people face the end of a liberating but difficult period in the country, but also now face a powerful new beginning in the voting causes. If the voting causes a continuation of corruption in government, there will be a revolt in 2 years when we move into a Mars period as a country in the firdaria Time Lord system. The Sun represents the Prime Minister, the monarch, aristocracy, magistrates, judges, and all persons in authority and of distinction. Cabinet members and ministers and the like. It also represents public heroes and national champions. The Sun is in Aries, exalted here. The Sun is in the second house. Self-esteem is the major theme for the year, as it is either challenged or boosted. This adds to the Pisces rising and the Sun in the second house to money matters as a primary focus in the next 6 months. And since it's in Aries, there is new beginnings here and forward action. The second house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The Sun also rules the sixth house that deals with public health, sickness, epidemics, the health service, the national services, army, navy, civil service, servants of the country, workers and employees in general, and trade unions, which can denote possible spending or financial connections, planning, budgeting to the above mentioned, as well as BRICS developments, and as well as positive developments in regards to sport. Mars is in the 12th house of Aquarius. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. Mars in Aquarius can denote a connection to digital currency, secret enemies, and hidden agendas, plus any connection to the above topics. Sun is conjunct Neptune with an orb of 2 degrees separating. This is a separating aspect, so some may say this may not have been an auspicious time to make sound financial decisions, or there may have been connections to socialism, communism, left-wing political ideas, an urge towards collectivism, linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice, which brings us to the corruption in government such as National Assembly Speaker Nosifiwe Mapisa Ngakulu, who recently resigned after financial corruption allegations. The Sun sextiles Pluto with an orb of 1 degree 39 minutes applying. Quite simply, the message is that this year, South Africa has the ability with new leadership to transform the old and manifest the glory of God that is within our grasp. Very positive indeed. Pluto denotes power, and Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. It also deals with refuge and excrement and sewers, all aspects of life carried on in the dark or hidden from public, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, all activities that are transformative like death and rebirth, or that bring hidden information into light. The challenge is to allow the process of transformation to take place, because any obstacles that stand in our path are likely to be removed. This can be an uncomfortable feeling, to say the least, as we are attached to parties that are detrimental to positive transformation. Nevertheless, the time is right and ripe, and the opportunities are here for South Africa to be liberated from negative connections of the past and to find renewed purpose. Mercury in Aries. Mercury is dealing with the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport, electricity issues, internet and connectivity. Announcements, news, and new ideas are coming to the fore within the next 6 months, but if addressed in a too outspoken way, can cause its popularity to wane. The media will have to judge the mood of the listeners to inspire a positive response. Too many projects can cause an overload and cause disappointment. This placement also indicates the possibility of development here, but also manipulation. Mercury in the second house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. Our lessons this year are closely linked to money matters, putting our finances in order, and again, this can bring up BRICS and how a digital currency will change trade and everyday lives of people. Mercury. Mercury also rules the 4th and the 7th houses. The 4th house deals with land, the owners of it, the workers of it, the crops and the produce of the land, mines, buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, the democracy as contrasted with aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. House, foreign affairs, relations with other countries, whether friendly or hostile, political or commercial, the national marriage and divorce rate. The dispositor Mars is in Aquarius, the 12th house, which again links to digital currency or BRICS developments. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism, which can denote force or legislative action. Conjunct Chiron with an orb of 0 degrees and 49 minutes applying. Mercury unites with the wound Chiron in the sign of the warrior. This is about boldly putting a name to what hurts. Words that make everyone uncomfortable because they are blunt and awkward will also be necessary. Now is not the time to hide behind the facade of diplomacy or charm. Conjunct the North Node with an orb of 1 degree 42 minutes separating. Mercury conjunct the Mars-ruled North Node is the bold messenger that demands you to look to the future. This can hit suddenly, an instinctive idea, a burst of information, or person who challenges us. Look up and move in the direction that we are being pointed to. This connects to news and saying it in such a way as to not cause an undesired response, but it connects to dealing with a wound from the past. Venus in Pisces. Venus deals with women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace and diplomatic resolutions. First house, Venus here is exalted and can indicate positive resolve for financial issues. It can also denote partnering regarding financial topics, or on the other side of positivity, it can denote overspending. Sport can also feature largely. The first house deals with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. Venus rules the 3rd and 8th houses. The 3rd house deals with inland transit, locomotion, or communication, such as railways, roads, and river, traffic, cars, all means of disseminating news and information, such as the post office, communication networks, internet, telephones, faxes, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, periodicals, neighboring nations, and electricity and infrastructure. The 8th house deals with public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries, taxes, etc. The dispositor is Jupiter. Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system, and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the national wealth, banks and bankers. And Jupiter is in the 3rd house, which I just went over, which deals mainly with infrastructure and communication. So this brings quite the focus on financial connections to infrastructure again, and municipalities, since people have had to take things into their own hands, such as in Harry Smith, where there has been no tarring of roads, electricity upgrades, water issues, and no refuse pickup in 7 years, highlighting the urban decay South Africa faces. The proper planning and discipline regarding delegation of funds as a focus for developments, repairs, and maintenance feature with Venus exalted in Pisces. Venus is conjunct Saturn. This can indicate disadvantage, a delay, the end of a relationship or a partnership, financial hardship, disloyalty. Healthy partnerships and connections can pass this phase and may lead to more significant communications that actually become foundational and long-lasting. For women, this can indicate more domestic violence issues, but most financial changes here will have a karmic connection to the past, as we possibly, with some delays, begin a practical approach to start a cleanup by putting money where it is actually needed and possibly connecting to certain rules to avoid the misuse of funds in municipalities, keeping those in charge responsible for proper maintenance and allocation of funds, especially as this is a applying conjunction within 2 degrees and 3 minutes. Overall, it can also indicate a very different type of partnership, but dealing with obvious serious matters of serious nature. This can also just denote that we are now begin being more cautious with spending and learning to budget more correctly to reduce negative issues in the future, as the changes now can affect us in the long run. Mars in Aquarius. Mars is in the 12th house of prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies and occult religions. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and also incendiarism. This year, government becomes the servant, not the master, which may be easy or difficult to accept depending on the nature of the party or parties, as I see it coming. This again indicates the end of the current government and or that the actions of it and of decisions made through who wins the election during the voting, as it connects to an announcement connected to pain and or regarding proper financial management, new financial developments regarding digital currency or BRICS, infrastructure issues and electricity connections could cause it to become the dissatisfaction of the people, which can connect to an uprising, or that it simply has hidden aspects which we now come to know about. Mars rules the second and ninth houses. The second house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The ninth house deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, long distance traffic, passengers, commerce, long distance or international communications, religion, churches, preachers, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions and publications, language and education. Saturn is in the first house. Saturn deals with elderly people. It governs the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow and disappointment. The first house deals with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. And of course, we now know that Saturn has been reborn as a morning star, which can very positively affect the forward movement in these areas. Jupiter in Taurus, the third, it moves from the fourth to the third and also deals with electricity. Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system, and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers, large developments, and international influence. The third house deals with inland transit, locomotion or communication, railways, roads and river traffic, cars, all means of disseminating news and information, such as the post office, communication networks, internet, telephones, faxes, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications and periodicals, as well as neighboring nations and languages. We are making big decisions and moving to a new way of life. Lots of activity regarding infrastructure, planning, juggling different aspects, and making choices such as voting. Attention to electricity issues is connected to this placement, and a load may feel as if it is being lifted. If choices are ethical, it indicates that we may move forward with excitement. It can also indicate a breakdown before we experience a breakthrough. A crisis, so to speak. A disruption or an revolutionary action by the people, or a huge scientific breakthrough, as Jupiter just conjuncted in Taurus with Uranus, the Awakener, the planet that rules electricity. This conjunction took place on the 20th of April. On April 10th, Ramekgopa attributed 13 consecutive days of no load shedding to Eskom's ramped up planned maintenance, mentioning that ending load shedding is a process and that planned maintenance allows for the accelerated sourcing of spares. Watch this space. First and the 10th house. The first house deals with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. The 10th house deals with the monarch or president, the government, the people in authority, royalty, eminent and famous persons, national trade, the national reputation, credit and power, and public employment rate. Dispositor Venus is in the first house, dealing with the country and its inhabitants as a whole, the general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. Venus deals with women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace and diplomatic resolutions, which can again indicate financial partnership, Venus, with Jupiter, foreign diplomatic resolutions. Jupiter is conjunct Uranus and can represent these turning points in our life story that serve as these breakthroughs of hope, light, and progress. They come every 14 years, or uprisings and revolutionary actions, sudden events, sudden surprises, sudden reversals, or accidents, or separations, or solutions, miracles, technological and electricity breakthroughs are possible. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn has chief influence over elderly people and governs the national death rate. Life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow, and disappointment. Saturn now reborn as a morning star. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. Saturn is in the first house, the country and its inhabitants as a whole, general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. This is a momentous period. Something or someone is asking or demanding serious consideration and effort. We are about to take a crucial step towards achieving or completing a lifelong ambition where considerable commitment is required. Traits vital this year are patience, diligence, persistence, and endurance. We might not have a lot of fun, but we will be rewarded by achieving our goals. The major lesson is to ensure that we are heading in the right direction. Even under heavy workload, we can know that we are accomplishing our objectives. This placement emphasizes our Saturn return currently until 2025, in which we are maturing now. The Sabian symbol for Saturn's placement is a sword in a museum. Is battle in the past? We as a people, Saturn in the first house, are cleaning up the past and moving more securely into the future, one step at a time. Saturn rules the 11th and 12th houses, the 11th house of Parliament, House of Commons, Town and Country Councils, similar bodies, Friends of the Nation, legislation. The 12th house is prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country and home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. Dispositor Jupiter is in Taurus' third house, again bringing infrastructure to the fore, as well as education, as we saw much financial corruption in schools and universities recently, as well as gunpoint robberies and staff shortages. Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers. The third house deals with all means of inland transit, locomotion or communication such as railways, road and river traffic, cars, all means of disseminating news and information such as the post office, communication networks, internet, telephones, faxes, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, and periodicals. It also deals with language and neighboring countries and nations. Uranus in Taurus Uranus has general influence over rioting, outbreaks of political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, anarchy, and nihilism. Uranus is in the third house, which deals with inland transit, locomotion, communication, railways, road and river traffic, cars, all means of disseminating news and information, such as the post office, communication networks, internet, telephones, faxes, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, and periodicals, neighboring nations, and language. We are challenged to break away from our norm and open our minds to new possibilities. We may do this through a sudden opportunity, but it is also likely for meeting a mentor or beneficiary, connections outside of our usual circle, a true meeting of the minds that challenges us to see the world differently. This is an opportunity for a new look at our third house issues, infrastructure, for an example, mentioned above, that includes electricity, a challenge to see it differently. We can gain real breakthroughs here, flashes of inspiration, innovation on a large scale, of miraculous nature, AI possibilities. This is a period to take risks that can further us exponentially. Expositor Venus is in the first house of Pisces exalted. The first house is the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. The second house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, places of activities, or activities associated with money making, banks, stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade, which again indicates partnerships, finances, solutions, and innovation regarding infrastructure. Neptune in Pisces. Neptune rules socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. Its urge is towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice, and propaganda. Neptune in the first house, the country and its inhabitants as a whole, its general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. This is a year of self-realization, either an enlightening and uplifting process, or an uncomfortable comprehension of a few home truths. But this assists in making proper adjustments, as we cannot find solutions without understanding our problems first. Regardless, the Sabian symbol for this degree is a fertile garden under the full moon, which sounds more like an uplifting process, the realization of a dream possibly, as we begin to focus on what matters most, of that which has been marginalized or corrupted. Aquarius. Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. Various modern authors include mundane significations such as refuge and excrement, sewers, aspects of life that are carried out in the dark or are hidden from public, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, wealth and power, violence, rape, all activities that are transformative like death or rebirth, or that bring hidden information into the light. Pluto in the 12th house. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need for charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. Serving others will teach us more and serve us better in the long run. This is a message to those in power. Serving others will teach you more and serve you better in the long run. Even though this can still suggest that we are still weeding out corruption with Pluto in the 12th. The Sabian symbol here is an unexpected thunderstorm. The dispositor Saturn is in the first house. The first house is the country and its inhabitants as a whole, the general condition of prosperity and health or the reverse. And Saturn has chief influence over elderly people, governs the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals and minerals, funerals, public sorrow, and disappointment. Chiron is conjunct the North Node. The wound Chiron unites with the path to the future, the North Node. It is in a separating orb of 2 degrees, so we may have just passed over a pain point. The sore spot is part of going further. It cannot be avoided. Chiron in Aries is the wounded warrior and the pioneer who ventures into new territory despite the risk of embarrassment or weakness. The North Node in Aries denotes new connections and leadership that feeds independence. The North Node is also in the second house that deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money-making, banks, stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. This year, finances are realigning to the ruler's value system. Taking the plunge can have us reaping the rewards. We are to focus on what we would like to build and have last long term. Libra Ingress. The ascendant is in Aquarius, and this is a return to ourselves, highlighting scientific innovation, electricity, supply lines, human rights, freedom, digital body connections, power to the people, revolution. It reinforces building and upgrading on the country's fundamental values and how they affect our future in a new way. It denotes a stable commitment to continue to improve and to take the changes made this year further, strengthening it during the last 6 months of our solar year until the next April of 2025. We are like a butterfly emerging from the chrysalis. One way of life may end as a new chapter of life begins. This is a nostalgic return to our unique and authentically colorful country with a higher understanding and a higher vision. We lead with experience and wisdom toward independence and freedom. The dispositor Saturn is in the second house, a money house that deals with wealth, the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. Again, highlighting financial commitments, digital currency, digital connections. Saturn has chief influence over elderly people, governs the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals, minerals, state funerals, public sorrow, and disappointment. The lunar phase for the Libra Ingress chart is a disseminating, waning gibbous, finishing phase where we accomplished and endeavor. And now our purpose is to share the light and knowledge of what has occurred. The moon denotes the common people, women in general, crowds, and all matters of common or public nature. The position of the moon in a mundane chart will show you where the public's attention falls. In this case, the moon is in Gemini. This can denote irritation or arguments with those in your environment, disruptions, and a focus on communication, borders, infrastructure, mechanical issues, events that trigger changes in our home life. The moon is in the 5th house. The 5th house deals with theaters, public houses, all placements of amusement, entertainment, and pleasure. The birth rate, children, sexual concerns, sport, speculation, gambling. Some consider the area that deals with high society, formal social functions, the House of Lords as the opposition to the 11th, ambassadors. The public's attention can also be focused on high society formal functions and the House of Lords. A focus on how the duality in the government election turnout is affecting the people, the coalition, neighboring countries, allies, the youth, education, sport. We can see finishing of activities that began earlier in the year regarding communication matters, filling staff shortages in schools, the changing landscape regarding educational language matters, not to mention the security changes made to avoid further robberies and financial fraud in the education sector. Results in these categories and results in certain financial investments in these areas, as well as ground-up developments that has reached its finishing stages. The moon rules the sixth house, therefore the focus can be on these areas also, such as the public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, the national services such as the Army, Navy, civil service, servants of the country, workers and employees in general, trade unions. The dispositor Mercury deals with the literary world, newspapers, the media, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, electricity, local transport, trade, language, infrastructure. Is in Virgo the 8th, public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, taxes, death duties, financial relations, debts, foreign country connections and financial relations to them, which can be indicative of whether solutions found through financial partnerships and investments connected to the above topics have turned out so far. Aspects of the moon, it's trine the sun. This is a memorable 6 months marked by stabilizing new beginnings started earlier, leading to relying on our own resources. As we move forward, we discover renewed vitality, a sense of carrying a lighter load, and a wondrous feeling that a whole new episode of our lives is about to start with a clean slate. The moon trine the sun can indicate that the people may be mostly pleased with the turnout of the new government and the elections that can take us past our past and into the future. The moon is conjunct Uranus. Change may have happened quickly, maybe in a disruptive way, as this can denote revolutionary changes in a separating aspect that has happened, such as in 1994, a significant change in direction regarding the people and the government with the moon and Uranus trine to the sun, which can be suggestive of it having led to progressive breakthroughs, freedom, and also further developments regarding scientific innovation connected also to electricity. Uranus is connected to riots, outbreaks of political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, anarchy and nihilism, and electricity. Tile Neptune. We will generally be more in touch with other people's feelings and environment. This transit is especially good for artistic and creative pursuits, good for spirituality and prayer, and compassion for others. Good qualities like compassion, trust, and loyalty can be triggered now, also in regards to the marginalized. Trine Pluto, you will feel things more powerfully and are likely to be transformed by our intense emotional reactions, interactions with fellow countrymen, others, and women will be more dramatic and profound than usual. This mainly denotes the governmental rebirth. Pluto also deals with metamorphosis and regeneration, refuge and excrement, sewers, all aspects of life that are carried on in the dark or hidden from public view, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, all activities that are transformative, like death and rebirth, or that bring hidden information into the light. The sun represents the prime minister, monarch, aristocracy, magistrates, judges, and all persons in authority and of distinction, cabinet members, and the like. It also represents public heroes and national champions. The sun is in Libra, in the 9th house. The major theme for the next 6 months is growth. As a country focused on development and improving government and overall well-being in the country and law of the land, now is the time to put what has been learned into practice. This can be the new laws governing legally being put into practice, publicly announcing new leadership. This can denote travel for the president or a prominent leader, religion, and foreign connections taking a focus. This can also denote sport and religion as a prominent focus for the next 6 months. The 9th house deals also with, which can mention public speaking and focus on some of the topics such as shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, long distance traffic, passengers, commerce, long distance and international communications, religion, churches, preachers, faraway places, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions, as well as publications, and justice in general. With Saturn still in Pisces, we can see an intense focus on water issues, which also connects to sea traffic and shipping, as mentioned above. The Sun also rules the 7th house, foreign affairs, relations with other countries, whether friendly or hostile, political or commercial, open enemies, partnerships, national marriage and divorce rate. The Leo 7th house is ruled by the Sun, which deals with rulers and has a government focus, which denotes rulership and government being a focus. And also, as it is the 7th house, we are focused on a partnership. This takes center stage during this 6-month period. If there are issues, corrective measures are possible. Business alliances, open enemies, and contracts and agreements are highlighted. The Dispositor Venus is in the 9th at an anaretic degree. Venus governs women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace and diplomatic resolutions. The 9th house deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, long-distance traffic, whether connected to passengers or commerce, long-distance and international communications, foreign countries, religion, the churches, preachers, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions and publications, language, and justice in general. This can suggest diplomatic resolutions regarding foreign partnerships or developments connected to peace, connected to war in faraway places. Aspects of the Sun. The Sun is conjunct Mercury with a 7-degree orb applying. Change is the key word for the year. There's much meetings about how to do things differently and which decisions need to be made. Many insights are gained this year. Mercury governs the literary world and is connected to newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, infrastructure, the intellectual world, the nation's communication, the telecoms industry, local transport issues, electricity. Could this indicate new laws regarding travel as well as highlighting once again the changes connected to the telecoms industry and foreign connections. Trine Uranus. The next 6 months, the message continues: expect the unexpected and anything goes, and you are well advised to go with the flow. Sudden events can catapult us into an entirely different life. A benefactor can offer a range of exciting new possibilities, also regarding electricity and the above topics mentioned. This is an opportunity to break out of old restricting ways and finally breaking through towards innovation and forward movement. Uranus rules over rioting and outbreaks, political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, surprises, reversals, anarchy, accidents, and nihilism. Mercury also opposes Neptune. Create change without burning bridges. This can also be indicative of unscrupulous business deals or lacking clarity. Neptune deals with socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. With an urge towards collectivism, it's linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice. They indicate the new laws and government in opposition to socialism, or the parties associated with socialism. Secret plots possibly, but a willingness to create change with compromise that can integrate the best of both worlds towards peaceful resolution. It can also indicate issues regarding lawsuits connected to the above topics, such as illicit undertakings or fraud. Trine Pluto. Themes of truth and transformation play out this year, this half of the year. Obstacles will most likely be removed. It feels uncomfortable. First, we may have hit a crisis event before a breakthrough can occur, or in order for the awakening to happen. Nevertheless, the time is right for us to be liberated from negativity and to find renewed purpose. Working towards removal of the toxic in this country. Mercury governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues, language, and trade. Mercury Virgo, and in the next 6 months, we commit to a plan of action or form a partnership, and we have the discipline to make it work and follow through. And this is the 6 month from September onwards. There is respect here, responsibilities may increase. In the 8th house, finances are taken seriously. Banks, property, trust funds, or the stock market. There may be serious discussion about shared resources with a partner, prioritizing, making plans and decisions. We may seek legal advice on resources, sign or end a contract. We may receive a financial gain or gift and have to decide how to best invest that. We may need to help an ally or neighboring country with changes in their resources. We are also developing a growing awareness of the sharing of resources on a global level. Mercury also rules the 8th and the 5th houses. The 8th house deals with the public mortality rate, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries, as well as debt and taxes. The 5th house, theaters, public houses, all places of amusement, entertainment, and pleasure. The birth rate, children, sexual concerns, sports, speculation, gambling. Some consider this connected to high society, formal social functions, House of Lords as the opposition of the 11th, and also ambassadors and self-made, built up from the bottom up businesses. Aspects of Mercury, such as small businesses, Aspects of Mercury square Jupiter, that rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers, the travel industry, education, language, which denotes action regarding finances. This square can be optimistic, broadening our outlook and assisting in making plans. It's important to pay attention to details now and not get tripped up by error or judgment or mistakes. Could this cause obstacles regarding travel? Over-optimistic about challenges in the education sector? Cocky speeches can occur, arrogance or over-optimism or overestimation or exaggeration, which can lead to embarrassment and loss or disappointment. Therefore, we cannot promise too much or overestimate our abilities when making plans. Trine Uranus has an influence over riots, outbreaks, political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, anarchy and nihilism, accidents, surprises and reversals. Mercury trine Uranus transit opens new possibilities, especially in regards to science, electricity, infrastructure, communications, connectivity, discoveries, and alliances or partners. It pursues freedom and independence. New original innovation is possible, solving old problems. New connections offering solutions might create breakthroughs, even if the connections to these people may not last long. Opposing Neptune at a 5-degree, 30-minute applying aspect, rules socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. Its urge is towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud, and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice. Mercury opposite Neptune transit brings mental confusion and potential relationship problems due to miscommunication. Our perception of reality is clouded due to an inability to filter out the background noise or useless information. We are hearing and seeing the truth, but also a lot of garbage. It is nearly impossible to tell the difference with this. We can be deceived. This is the wrong time for making important decisions, plans, or detailed mental work. Business deals should be avoided and put off, especially signing contracts that you cannot get out of. If not, getting the advice of a professional in the field or someone we trust is encouraged. We could be deceived if not careful. It would be important to look at the fine print and make sure important details are not passed over. Trine Pluto denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration. Various modern authors includes refuge and excrement, sewers, all aspects of life that are carried on in the dark or hidden from public view, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, and all activities that are transformative like death and rebirth, or that bring hidden information to light, such as detective work. Mercury trine Pluto transit is ideal for asking for favors and talking people into things, as in political mercenaries, giving the power of penetration at the mental level. This could be applied to sales work, debating, bargaining, or negotiating favorable deals in business or major purchases. Just as it can profoundly influence others, someone can deeply affect us through some idea or plan, or it could be the beginning of a successful partnership. Socializing for the sake of it may not be appealing as a serious discussion. This can be made if we landed on the wrong side of the law. Our understanding and perception of the underworld, such as drugs and crime, will be profound. but our ability to deeply understand things is probably best applied to research and investigation and uncovering secrets and detoxifying the country. Great energy for discovery and research that leads to powerful change and innovation. It can indicate becoming experts at something. It can also indicate action regarding taxation and debt recovery. Quincunx Chiron. This configuration may signal that our cognitive function has been overpowered or diminished or triggered by our wounds or sensitivities from the past, such as racial issues. But mainly, this can mean that adjustments are necessary. Venus. Venus deals with women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace, and also diplomatic resolutions. Venus in Libra indicates that we seek stimulation in partnership and money matters. We are open to ideas and eager to communicate and negotiate as Venus rules Libra. We want to balance the scales and do things right. Venus is in the 9th house that deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, long-distance traffic, passengers, commerce, long-distance or international communications, religion, churches, preachers, the law, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions, publications, and language. The next 6 months, our passions and ideals are highlighted, but we could face a crossroads to stay on the path with occasional adjustments or to take on a different course entirely. It's time to watch the signposts, the signals. Foreign connections can benefit us, much legalities, trials and balancing of the scales, and a focus on justice. The Sabian symbol here is 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. Ready for change to the next sign at an anaretic degree, learned, matured in this area, and ready for the next step. Venus also rules the 4th and 9th houses. The 4th house deals with the land, the owners of it and the workers on it, crops and produce of the land, mines, buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, the democracy as contrasted with the aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. A planet close to the cusp of this house may influence the weather according to its nature. The 9th house deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplane industry, long-distance traffic, passengers, commerce, international communications, long-distance travel, foreign countries, religion, churches, preachers, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions, publications, and language. Venus is quincunx Neptune. Neptune deals with socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. It's an urge towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud and swindling, and all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice, and also disease. Venus quincunx Neptune transit brings our dreams and goals hampered with uncertainty or doubt. This can favor deception or promising more than actually taking action. Going back to that theme of over-promising something or exaggeration, focusing on one goal alone at a time will make it easier to make decisions and bring things into reality. Imbalances in partnerships will be evident. It is a put your money where your mouth is aspect. Secret affairs are possible, but so is the risk of exposure and scandal. Venus is also square Pluto, which denotes the principle of metamorphosis and regeneration, also refuse and excrement and sewers, everything hidden from public view, political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, transformative processes such as death and rebirth, hidden information coming into light. So power and control issues may arise in existing relationships. Changes in our law system is possible. Threats and ultimatums are possible if either partner feels smothered or controlled. An unhealthy relationship may break down, which would be very dramatic. A well-based relationship will withstand the intensity of this transit, and in this case, some kind of transformation would still be undertaken within the dynamics of the relationship. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men. War, terrorist attacks, internal disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. Now, Mars is in Cancer in the 6th house, and the focus is on our everyday life and hard work, and it is not a time for a calm schedule for the second half of our year. A project is likely to be demanding long hours, concentrated effort, and rigorous planning. This can indicate violence or war in cases, military action, patriotism, diplomacy may be necessary, health topics may be a challenge. Mars rules also the 3rd and 10th houses, which deals with inland transit, locomotion, and communication, such as railways, road and river traffic, disseminating news and information, post office, communication networks, internet, telephone, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, periodicals, language, neighboring nations, our neighborhoods. The 10th house deals with the monarch or president, the government, people in authority, royalty, eminent and famous persons, national trade, the national reputation, credit, power, and the public employment rate. Uprisings about the government or the election outcomes, electricity and or infrastructure, including health issues, could be possibilities that ensue. Uprisings about government choices in military action connected to war is also a possibility. The dispositor moon is in Gemini, the 5th, and can also denote military enlisting of the youth. Excuse me. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. Mars is also trine Saturn. Mars trine Saturn gives the strength, ambition, and the perseverance to take on the hardest of tasks and complete them on time, on budget, and with perfection, patience, and self-discipline, without being distracted or discouraged. This is an excellent transit to follow through on important issues that has been waiting for a long time, and this gives me hope. This also favors goodwill in partnering and is an excellent time to legitimize, consecrate, or formalize a partnership. There can be an age or generational or different outlook of difference between partners, but this indicates a long-term relationship. And this is also the aspect that can indicate a coalition between the DA and the ANC, as it could denote a very large difference in relationship. Lasting success and practical results can be found in business and finance deals, real estate and metals. This is an excellent time to start legal proceedings, a large business laying foundations, or a siege. Expect good relations and support from authority. This looks good for a new government, as well as correcting and finding solutions regarding our police system, holding them responsible, and increasing the standards regarding corruption and unlawful arrests that costs us financially. Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers. Jupiter is in Gemini and is in the 5th house. Foreign connections in the House of Lords, mentorship. This is also a financial house. High risks is not advised. This can suggest positive outcomes regarding education and developments and developing startups and small businesses. It also indicates positive developments regarding local travel, foreign advisors, language, and other developments in education, an increase in the importance of freedom of expression and bravery, many technological advancements. This can also be a large demonstration by the youth in regards to these themes, such as also the Bella Bull. This also connects to finances, as this is also a time or a financial house. The proper use of funds can connect here. Possible foreign funding or mentorship. The 5th house deals with theaters, public houses, all places of amusement, entertainment and pleasure, the birth rate, children, sexual concerns, sports, speculation, gambling. Some consider this also high society, formal social functions, House of Lords in opposition to the 11th, and ambassadors, and of course small businesses. It also rules the 2nd and 11th houses, which are money houses, the national wealth, the exchequer, the revenue, and all places and activities connected with money making, banks, bankers, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The 11th house deals with Parliament, especially the House of Commons, town and country councils, similar bodies, friends of the nation, and also legislation. Mercury, the dispositor, is in the 8th of Virgo, exalted, which is also a money house. The 8th house deals with public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries, debts, and other people's money. The aspect of Jupiter, sextile Chiron with one orb applying, suggesting great ideas and mentorship to make the country a better place and to minimize suffering. Saturn has chief influence over elderly people and governs the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow and disappointment. Saturn is in Pisces and in the 2nd house. This year requires sound financial budgeting. This can indicate something exciting that simply requires altering spending, or that mentorship is required, or that a reassessment is necessary, accepting limitations and incorporating ways to boost finances. The Sabian symbol here is an officer preparing to drill his men. New financial legislation set into place, Saturn, consolidation, war funding. The 2nd house deals with the national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. It rules the 12th and the 1st. The 12th deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies and occult religions. The 1st house deals with the country as a whole, its inhabitants, the general condition of prosperity and health, or the reverse. And the dispositor Jupiter is in the 5th of Gemini in debility, in the area of advising. Uranus rules over riots, outbreaks of political tension, right-wing political ideas, free market enterprise, fascism, and the urge towards individualism. It rules separation, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries, explosions, anarchy, and nihilism. Uranus is in Taurus. In the 4th house, literally this can be an earthquake or a split of the country in some way. This can indicate that while Uranus is in Taurus, there may be new ideas brought forward toward a separation in the country, such as the Cape becoming independent. But regardless, it can denote huge sudden changes and abrupt surprises, accidents, renovations toward freedom and independence. A general restlessness in the land with more chance of uprisings and rebellious action, also from the opposition to the new government changes, and also due to power outages while we are in this transformative electric stage. Scientific breakthroughs again highlighted that transforms our land, our values, electricity especially. This can also bring sudden changes in the justice system and laws, as the dispositor sits in the 9th in dignity. So I'm hopeful that any disruptions that we may deal with Uranus in the 4th will ultimately turn out positive with the dispositor in dignity in the 9th. The 4th house also deals with land, the owners of it and the workers on it, the crops and produce of the land, mines and buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, the democracy as contrasted with the aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. A planet here can also denote earth events, and such as storms, earthquakes, and general crisis events or surprising events. Sabian, in Uranus's case, Sabian symbol here is a mature woman reawakened to romance, which indicates a rebirth is possible. An older system is renovated to suit today. A reversal, so to speak, towards absolute renovated liberation and forward movement in scientific innovation. Uranus is also sextile Neptune. Uranus sextile Neptune transit represents spiritual awakening. As this transit approaches, we may begin to seek answers to philosophical questions that traditional religion or even science cannot explain. We may become more concerned about the future and humanity in general. In particular, we may wish to understand better how we are connected to others at the mass conscious level. The answers to your questions are more likely to come through dreams, flashes of insight, and interaction with groups of like-minded people, rather than through formal studies. It is common during this transit to become involved in humanitarian groups. In March of 2024, the news read of how the world forgot about the Israeli casualties. The ACDP MP claimed propaganda distorted facts for political gains, as an aspect such as this can implicate. This is an excellent time to invent and create, as this also emphasizes innovation and electricity issues. It's also trine Pluto. Uranus trine Pluto transit brings evolutionary change. Changes will be occurring around you that allow for greater personal freedom, but you will also change on the inside, and you can facilitate this because of a more adventurous, optimistic, and also more progressive outlook. Tradition, religion, moral standards, and societal expectations may have held us back in the past, but now we can feel a sense of freedom to explore more possibilities during this exciting time of discovery and innovation. We should be more willing to take risks. This is an excellent time to quit bad habits and address outdated or prejudiced beliefs. We can find original solutions and more efficient outcomes due to a more futuristic and experimental approach. A more powerful intuition and the ability to sense the collective consciousness means you can become a trendsetter. Increased charisma and personal power gives us the ability to take the lead and have a positive influence on a large number of people. This is also an excellent time to join groups or learn more about spirituality, prayer, religion, or politics. Actively promote constructive change in things we feel strongly about, such as climate change and human rights. Neptune is in Pisces in the second house. An evaluation of finances again, ensuring that there's no hidden agendas. Neptune is at the 29th degree of Pisces. Its Sabian symbol is a prism. Neptune rules socialism, communism, and left-wing political ideas. It urges towards collectivism. It is linked with mobs, secret plots, sedition, fraud and swindling, all illicit undertakings, bogus companies, loss and vice, and just general deception or disappointment. The second house deals with national wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money making, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The anaretic degree in modern rulership, could this denote a pivotal change or loss or a move towards more socialistic financial endeavors? The aspects of Neptune is sextile Pluto. Neptune sextile Pluto gives a pioneering spirit, making us unafraid to challenge the accepted way of thinking and doing things, and we can deconstruct any aspect of life, a system, belief, or procedure. We can remove political, religious, cultural, and gender bias and reconstruct it in a more advanced and unadulterated state. We are inspired by truth and human potential. We can tap into the mass subconscious and can gauge the prevailing thoughts of humanity. You share with your generation a sense of where society is heading as a collective in an evolutionary sense. We may even take this shared sense of destiny to life, the planet, and all of existence. Humanity is undergoing an evolutionary leap forced by powerful change. We have a role to play in adapting humanity to survive extreme change. The ultimate aim is to bring people closer, not in the physical, but in the spiritual sense. We realize that only through a mass movement sharing one superconscious can humanity evolve fast enough to avoid extinction. Intense sensitivity to the destruction unleashed by industrialization will transform energy generation and slow the degradation and depletion of shared resources. This input to the mass consciousness transforms how we communicate and live with each other through political, religious, and cultural renewal. Old systems and beliefs based on empire and superiority are disintegrating, and in their place, we are dreaming up or imagineering a more humanitarian approach and shared responsibility for the welfare of everyone and everything. The collective dream. Pluto denotes metamorphosis and regeneration. It also deals with refuge, refuse, excrement, sewers, all aspects of life that are carried out in the dark or hidden from public view. It deals with survival. It deals with political undergrounds, espionage, organized crime, great wealth and power, violence, rape, rejection, all activities that are transformative like death and rebirth, or that brings hidden information to light, and also that covers topics such as detective work. Pluto is in Capricorn in this chart. Pluto is in the 12th house. The following 6 months from September on, those in power is to serve others. There can still be some last bits of effort to challenge and work against the positive changes that are trying to come through people in dark places behind the scenes. Pluto is at the 30th degree of Capricorn, or the 29th degree. And the Sabian symbol here is directors of a large firm meet in secret conference. The 12th house deals with prisons, reformatories, criminals, spies, secret enemies of the country, at home or abroad, hospitals, asylums, institutions, for those who are weak, infirm, or in need of charity, the welfare state, possible secret societies, and occult religions. The dispositor Saturn is in the 2nd house that deals with wealth, the executor, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money, such as banks, the stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. Saturn, has chief influence over elderly people and governments, the national death rate, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow and disappointment, which in turn leads to Jupiter in Gemini there, and then to Mercury in the 8th, exalted all money houses. Powerful events, powerful people in regards to money, as well as secrecy. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. The North Node is in Aries in the 3rd house of infrastructure. All means of inland transit, locomotion, communication, railways, road and river traffic, cars, disseminating news and information, the post office, communication networks, internet, telephone, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, periodicals, language, neighboring nations. The North Node in the 3rd house, your journey now involves communication and communication networks. We are moving forward towards new innovation and new beginnings regarding electricity and 3rd house issues. The dispositor is Mars in Cancer in the 6th. Mars affects our daily lives. And this is changes affecting our absolute daily lives. It also deals with the government issued services such as the military, soldiers, noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. This is under the moon in Gemini, the 5th. The dispositor is in modern astrology is in the 12th, and Mars in Cancer in passive aggressive 6th. So electricity focus affecting everyday lives, connectivity. I went over what Mars covered, which is the military, soldiers, opposition forces, strikes, disputes, war, terrorist attacks, arson, and incendiarism. And this 6th house with our everyday lives, the public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, national services, army, navy, civil service, servants of the country, workers, employees, and trade unions. So a lot going on here. In secondary progressions, the lunar phase is the full moon, which is the same as the solar return chart. The moon denotes the common people, women generally, crowds, and all matters of common or public nature. The position of the moon in a mundane chart will show where the public's attention falls. There is a relief here, as we are about to reap the rewards of our efforts. We've reached a culmination point. We are set to benefit from seeds sown and nurtured from the past 14 years or so. Right now, we need to take some time to reflect rather than rush into decisions. We now have the wisdom of hindsight. We can look back over the past 14 years or so and recognize our successes and our mistakes, as well as the past 30 years, as we are also finishing a Saturn cycle. As a result, we can apply this wisdom to the next stage of our journey with adjustments. Now is also the time, after reaching a huge breakthrough, to begin focusing on making life more meaningful and more service-oriented to the people. The time of governments putting the people last on the list is over now. The moon is in Sagittarius. There is a lighter load, a lightening after an intense period for South Africa. We are stepping back to take a look at the big picture. The people are focused on freedom and more positive, ready to expand South Africa's horizon. Independence is in the air. If the people are held back, they will be willing to fight for their rights. Legal battles can be more prominent. South Africa is connected to the world now, and travel or international connections and awareness abounds. Religion and spirituality is a country-wide focus, as well as justice and the education system. The moon is in the 10th house. The monarch or president, the government, people in authority, royalty, eminent and famous persons, national trade, the national reputation, credit and power, public employment rate. So our focus is on the government. The president and the ANC government are to reap the rewards of past efforts made towards reaching goals. If they have worked steadily, responsibly, and wisely, including all of the country's people, then they are likely to reap great rewards with this election. However, if they have squandered opportunities and treated some cultures, races, religious groups unjustly, then they may find this phase more difficult. If they try to escape their responsibilities, then they are likely to experience great difficulties during this phase. On the other hand, if they have been making steady plans and progress to achieve a particular status to the public that is fair and includes all, then they are likely to achieve their goals now. The government and the people, the 10th house and the moon, the people in government now, as the people take the reins. The country is going through a redirection, a rebirth, and people are ready to fight for justice. South Africa is a microcosm that has walked a journey of transformation and will become a teacher to the remainder of the world as they now only begin their transformation. The moon is opposite Mercury with a 0 degree 39 minute separating orb. Mercury governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues. Communications with opposition in parliament can be more laden with difficulties. Attempts to interact can cause frustration. The telecoms industry and all of the above connected with Mercury can experience difficulties during this redirection. The focus of the people are on government, and therefore there is a force to deal with issues in a different way. Arguments can arise between parties and officials, but the tenacity is there to work at exchanges. It would be best for rulers and political party leaders to keep calm while stating their case. Right now, we have the opportunity to improve our network of associates, learn new skills, and apply them with patience and persistence. The sun is in Gemini, and this can indicate a change in government, a change in rulership. The government and its ruler is facing a new opportunity. The time to vote and reassess options are here. Voting, change, coalition, duality, two, a tie, a separation, two sides, choices. The sun represents the prime minister, monarch, aristocracy, magistrates, judges, and all persons in authority and of distinction, cabinet members, and the like. It also represents public heroes and national champions. The sun is square the ascendant, indicating a time for change. If we have procrastinated, we will now be forced to make decisions. The opportunities have arrived, and this can be a rewarding period for us. Keeping in mind that here is a willingness to challenge authority to achieve the changes necessary. It is best, of course, to move forward towards goals without creating conflict or burning bridges. There is a renewed sense of purpose in government. Projects that may have been brewing some time now, especially with the telecoms industry and electricity, may now come to fruition. The time is ripe for change. We can purposefully move forward with renewed resolve. Mercury is also in Gemini, that deals with Mercury is in Gemini, and Mercury deals with the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues. Now we are keen to expand our options. New technology, transport, networks, and communication channels gradually open up for exploration. There is changes in the educational system. Borders, cities, etc. fall under this. Mercury in the 4th house. This also deals with the land, the owners of it and the workers on it, the crops and produce of the land, mines, buildings, the people as contrasted with the monarch, the democracy as contrasted with the aristocracy, the opposition in parliament. The country itself is about to be very busy. There can be more of an influx, additions, and changes, and involving borders or a split or separation of some kind. This can also point and add to the probability of earthquakes, especially while Uranus is still in the 4th house of the radix chart, making a powerful conjunction to Jupiter on the 20th of April, the day I released this video or this podcast, as I'm recording it on the day Saturn is reborn on the 18th, a mere week before our solar return birthday. This energy is an invitation to connect with fellow South Africans in new and different ways. Using history to make better choices for our future, we start a new chapter that we can look back upon hopefully with honor. Venus is in Cancer. Venus deals with women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace and diplomatic resolutions. There is blessings coming for the everyday routines in South African lives. There is funding put into making life less of a struggle. Finances may be treated with more respect. Venus in the 5th house, that deals with theaters, public houses, placements of amusement, entertainment, pleasure, birth rate of children, sexual concerns, sports, the youth, speculation, gambling, high society, formal social functions, House of Lords in the opposition to the 11th, and ambassadors and small businesses. Duty may bring a sense of satisfaction. Achievement may attract rewards, but playfulness lifts the spirit. Artistic talents and sports emerge and do well. These fields can bring people together for a cause, just as we saw in 1994 and as we saw in 2023, also with the repeat of the Rugby World Cup win, just as we did at that time, now again during our Saturn return. The people are ripe for righteousness and will stand for freedom and truth. The youth is more optimistic and involved, and we could find even the financial situation shows more increase. The modern dispositor is the moon in the 10th of Sagittarius. Venus is trine Jupiter. Opportunities for monetary and social advancement, relations and partnerships begin to flourish, or new, better opportunities arise. This is a phase of growth, and we must grab it while we can. Jupiter also rules the religious and judicial world, the national state of religion, divines, the justice system, prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers. Mars in Taurus. This heralds a period of consolidation. Now the government, as Mars rules our 10th in the radix, will not be marching to their own tune, and they will now be required to build solid foundations for the country instead of only looking after themselves. Less rash and more consideration in action, a look before you leap approach, taking in account consequences to actions. Mars also rules the military, soldiers and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson and incendiarism. Progressed Mars will conjunct natal Mercury on July 12th, 2024 in Taurus, the 4th house. Mercury governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transport issues. This could indicate a new beginning in our electricity and telecoms industry, the media, possibly due to a crisis or uprising. December 23rd, 2024, solar arc Jupiter in Sagittarius squares natal Saturn in Pisces. A financial shift involving foreign beneficiaries or partnerships, legislation and or law. The progressed moon also now quincunx by sign the sun, again testifying to government adjustments as the people are demanding change. Firdaria, we're in a Jupiter period, Jupiter rules the religious and judicial world, the national state of religion, priests, divines, the justice system, prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers, spirituality, education, language and growth. This period is an active period of advancement and development. Spirituality increases. Perhaps some benefactor will appear and help to go to the higher strata. Financial focus, government focus, and scientific breakthroughs regarding our infrastructure. We have been in a Jupiter moon period since 2022, which is change and growth oriented. And that lasts until August of 2024. Then we move into a Jupiter-Saturn period, which is a securing and stabilizing growth period and maturation from August this year until April of 2026. When we move into a Mars period, which can have the world situation affecting us as our Mars is in Aries, a world axis point, and also rules our government house of Scorpio natally. Mars periods are connected to very active and busy periods that can also bring anger, uprisings, and destructive events or poor health and violence. Mars governs the military, soldiers, and noted military and naval men, war, civil war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. So we could also expect that period as of April 2026 to also be a much more fire-ridden period. Solar arc Jupiter is on the south node. A strong sense of spiritual awareness and a deep understanding of the cyclical nature of life can ensue. A letting go of the past, the conjunction of Jupiter and the south node also unveils a compelling interplay between expansion and past patterns. This conjunction intertwines the energies of growth and abundance and wisdom represented by Jupiter with the karmic lessons and patterns of the past embodied by the south node. Jupiter also rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system, and prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks, and bankers. Jupiter also opposes Pluto. And could this denote control through financial developments and religion-related issues? A powerful energy that can make a big impression on others, with more influence over outcomes. It can dramatically increase on others with more influence. It can dramatically increase the ego and lust for power. To harness the best of this transit, it is necessary to contain ruthlessness and fanaticism. At least in the eyes of the public, support of others is necessary and needed to realize goals. So compromise is required to make more allies and fewer enemies. Enemies are a feature of this transit, because power and strength will bring about defensive reactions from others who feel threatened by the increasing power and influence. Making people feel less threatened will further goals and at least make them feel like their points of view are heard. It is important to realize that one righteous belief is not the only possibility, and that freedom is the path that was highlighted in 1994, and we should not deviate from what freedom is. Jupiter opposing the natal moon denotes the common people, women generally, crowds, all matters of common or public nature. The position of the moon also indicates where the public's attention falls, and this indicates a period of growth, expansion, and potential challenges in the realm of people, relationships, the land, politics, and general well-being. The opposition aspect representing the opposition aspect signifies a tension between the energies of Jupiter, representing growth and opportunity, opposing the government, and the moon, the people in government, symbolizing change, emotional reactions, eyes on the government to change, eyes on a prominent woman in authority, women's issues, and all of the above. Pluto also squares the sun now in the first, demanding complete transformation, a power shift. Everything is up front now for all to see. The solar return Mercury is exactly conjunct the North Node in Aries, another indicator for a change in leadership and also affecting infrastructure and energy. Profections is the moon-ruled 6th house. The moon denotes the common people, women in general, crowds, and all matters of common or public nature. The position of the moon in a mundane chart will show where the public's attention falls. The 6th house deals with public health or sickness, epidemics, the health service, the national services, army, navy, and civil service as servants of the country, workers and employees in general, trade unions, and everyday life. The moon is in the 10th in the radix chart of South Africa, eyes on the government and leadership affecting our everyday lives and the country's direction, including the above topics such as health and national services, putting extra emphasis on the moon phases of each period as well as the eclipses when appropriate. And this would then also include all 10th house topics. Eclipses for this period will be in Pisces and Libra, not hitting exact aspects, but in the 2nd house and in the 9th house, adding emphasis on money, partnerships, and justice, as Venus rules Libra and is exalted in Pisces. Pisces is also ruled by Jupiter, starting a new liberation at their meeting on the 20th of April, which will change the whole of South Africa, and a very unusual and surprising but hopeful breakthrough. Sometimes breakthroughs starts with breakdowns, but ultimately it will lead to a breakthrough. Also on February 29th, 2025, there's a new moon conjunct Saturn in Pisces in the 2nd house. Pisces deals with the national death rate, elderly people, life-threatening epidemics, landowners, farmers, mines, coal, and industries connected to metals and minerals, state funerals, public sorrow and disappointment, commitment or mastering of something, or a master at something. On September 18th, there's a lunar eclipse in Pisces in our 2nd house. The ruler Jupiter's in Gemini in debility, but it is also a 5th house of money that deals with partnering with foreign connections growing, or partnerships with foreign connections growing possibly, or a gamble. In the 2nd half of the year after the Libra Ingress, we have the solar eclipse in Libra on the 2nd of October 2024 in the 9th house, with the ruler Venus in Scorpio in the 10th conjunct natal Jupiter. Venus governs women's issues, national birth rate, social factors connected to marriage and children, artists, musicians, and the arts, facilities for sport and entertainment, peace and diplomatic resolutions. Jupiter here rules the religious and judicial world, the national or state religion, priests, divines, the justice system, prominent judges, barristers, national inquests, the nation's wealth, banks and bankers, legislation, allies, government, financials, and future developments. On March 14th, 2025, there will be a lunar eclipse in Virgo in the 8th house of finances, with the ruler Mercury exactly conjunct natal Mars in the 3rd house, affecting Mercury, which governs the literary world, newspapers, publishers, ambassadors, trade and commerce, and the intellectual world, the nation's communication and telecoms industry, local transportation issues. Mars governs the military, soldiers and noted military and naval men, war, terrorist attacks, industrial disputes, strikes and conflicts, opposition forces, fire services, arson, and incendiarism. March 29th of 2025, there's a solar eclipse in Aries conjunct natal Mars in the 3rd house, which can indicate a new beginning, with the ruler of the eclipse, the natal ruler, transit Mars in Cancer, the 6th house, putting the government in service mode. September 18th, there's a lunar eclipse in Pisces, the 2nd house, the main houses for eclipses until our next solar return is the 2nd house, the 3rd house, the 8th house, and the 9th house. So I'm going to go over those definitions again. The 2nd house deals with the wealth, the exchequer, revenue, and all places and activities concerned with money. Banks, stock exchange, financial institutions, money markets, and trade. The 3rd house deals with infrastructure, inland transit, locomotion, communication, railways, road, river, traffic, cars, disseminating news and information, the post office, communication networks, internet, telephones, newspapers, magazines, ephemeral publications, periodicals. It also rules neighboring nations and language. The 8th house deals with public mortality, death rate, the kinds of people who die, death duties, financial relations with foreign countries, debt and taxes. The 9th house deals with shipping, sea traffic, the airplanes industry, long distance traffic in general, whether connected with passengers or commerce, long distance or international communications, religion, the churches, preachers, law courts, universities, professors, philosophical and scientific institutions, and publications. Therefore, all of the above areas could be affected, as we are also still under the April 8th total solar eclipse in Aries with the North Node, signifying new leadership not only on a world stage, but for South Africa, as we have Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, government house, indignity, and rulership in Aries. In summary, as that was a mouthful, the first 6 months from the March Aries Ingress, we have a Pisces rising chart beginning a new 2-year financial and governmental cycle. It highlights financial adjustments, storms, water topics from flooding to drought to municipal to water quality to water availability to maintenance issues and beyond, even military action on water, drownings, suicide, epidemics, and psychological health. It also holds the sun in the second house of finances, this time in Aries, where the last total solar eclipse was, in exaltation, bringing the effects of that eclipse natal for us third house energy on infrastructure and communication, also to the second as emphasis, again highlighting new beginnings and connections regarding digital currency, banking, finances, and BRICS, not to mention new leadership verifying the governmental election on May 29th. Not to mention the fact that we find Pluto here in the 12th house of Aquarius, squaring natal Pluto in Scorpio with Mars, which rules the government 10th house natally. It brings both to the 12th, signaling the shift in power. Could this hopefully indicate the beginning of the end of corruption and the end of the current ANC government, again focusing on the election? The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction of April 20th, 2024 sits in the 3rd house in this chart, again highlighting innovation, infrastructure, energy, electricity, and so forth. The moon in this chart is in a first quarter action moon in Leo, in leadership, in the 6th house, denoting reassessments, making adjustments, changes such as the election, as the moon natally sits in the 10th. It also is the house that deals with military action, health, national services, enemies, employment, and topics that affect the everyday lives of South Africans, indicating a forward movement with determination regarding these matters. The second 6 months from September's Libra Ingress, we have an Aquarius rising chart, a return to ourselves, a period of building on the changes we made during the first 6 months, working more towards stabilizing the country's fundamental values. It reinforces further innovation, power to the people. The sun leadership is in the 9th, connected to partnership, cooperation, foreign topics, justice, worldviews, religion, and the law. The lunar phase is a disseminating moon in Gemini, emphasizing a closing out phase, finishing up what we began, or sharing the wisdom we have gained through what we are finishing and what we have attained. Reflecting on the election turnout, Gemini, and its effects on the people, a close tie, changes in sport, education, freedom of expression, our rights, bravery, freedom of speech, Gemini. This also covers high society, advisors, the youth, language, separation, duality, and cooperation between two sides, a coalition. Pluto here also sits in the 12th, but back in Capricorn, where it's retrograded as of September. Finalizing and cleaning up some previous messy matters once and for all. A close out of the past, a true rebirth. Like the phoenix, we rise again. The Aries solar eclipse of the 8th of April 2024 sits in the 3rd house, confirming the infrastructure, energy, electricity, leadership connections. Uranus still in the 4th, upgrading our land and resources. The possible indicator whilst here for a split, a separation, a earthquake or separation such as the Cape Independence being pushed forward. Uranus will be here until April 2026, and until that time we can expect unusual events occurring here. Jupiter has now entered Gemini, bringing AI advancements worldwide, but also emphasizing local travel more, and again highlights our 5th house of sport for the better, freedom of expression, the youth, the arts, human rights and education, language, religious and banking topics, plus all of the above topics dealing with the 5th house. This is also a financial house and can indicate foreign partners or investments. The solar return chart acting as an overreaching umbrella for the entire year from this year's birthday, 27 April 2024 to 27 April 2025, hands us a Taurus rising chart, bringing our natal 4th to the 1st, the opposition in government to the focus. It also brings banking, Taurus, and of course this brings the revolutionary action of and innovative science, infrastructure of the Jupiter-Uranus electricity conjunction as the main focus for the whole year. This year we elevate in character. We are upgrading our frequency. We are no longer bystanders of what happens to us. We are breaking free from the shackles that have held us. This is a revolutionary energy, an independent energy, a freedom energy, a liberation from the past. This chart also brings the new 2-year cycle in Parliament, 11th house. The moon is full here in Sagittarius, a ripening. The people are ripe for change and for freedom. The eyes on the government and the rulership as the moon, the natal moon, sits in the 10th. And as the solar return, Sun is in the 1st house, angular. Pluto here is in the 10th house of government, indicating the power transfer and change in government of those holding power. It also places the people, Aquarius, as the 10th house in government, re-emphasizing that we will no longer tolerate corruption and abuse of power. The people are taking their power back. This also indicates that people will fight, Sagittarius full moon, for their rights. Venus here is at a critical 29 degrees of Aries in debility. She rules the Taurus ascendant, indicating enthusiasm, aggressive social expression, initiative in finances, and the Sun leadership, denoting again, as so many factors, partnership or co-rulership, competition, voting, choices, an impulsive and direct drive towards partnering, which can also affect finance. I'm just going to take a sip of my tea. "2024 holds a historical election during its Saturn return phase and its Saturn rebirth as a morning star, just as it did in 1994, 30 years ago. This time, a party such as the DA's manifesto states that it sees this as an opportunity for unity, embodying a collective commitment to rescuing SA. As journalist Bongani Nicolas Ngomane says, true democracy isn't just about casting a ballot. It's about holding our leaders accountable and fighting for a better tomorrow, building a South Africa that lives up to its promise, a place where everyone has a fair shot and nobody gets left behind. That's the kind of change worth voting for. The secondary progression's lunar phase is also a full moon in Sagittarius. So coincides with what he mentioned with building a South Africa that lives up to its promise. So the full moon in Sagittarius, same as the solar return, is a culmination point for government, for the people and the country. Again, wisdom of hindsight, reflecting on how to avoid past mistakes and break free towards a liberated future that looks entirely different from our past. Our natal moon sits in the 10th of government, reinforcing this. South Africa is still in its Saturn return phase of maturation. This is happening in our second house of Pisces, which puts it at the forefront for the first 6 months of the year from the Aries Ingress. It signifies a critical phase of evaluation related to its second house. This house governs finances, material possessions, and self-worth. And during this period, the country reevaluates its financial stability, core values, and reliance on external resources. This includes evaluating national resources, economic stability, and fiscal policies. The country may reevaluate its reliance on external resources, trade agreements, and economic partnerships. The focus shifts from mere monetary gains to spiritual wealth, emphasizing compassion and collective well-being. While challenges may arise, the Saturn return serves as an opportunity for growth and long-term stability. This also brings BRICS to a highlight, as transiting Saturn will be here until May of 2025. To give some perspectives to why I'm bringing this up now, let's take a look at the last time Saturn was in Pisces. During the last occurrence, which spanned from 1994 to 1996, significant events unfolded in South Africa. Let's delve into the impact. There was the end of apartheid and racial segregation. South Africa held its first interracial elections in 1994, a momentous milestone in the anti-apartheid movement. Nelson Mandela was elected as the country's president during the historic period. While the harm caused by decades of racial injustice did not vanish overnight, structural changes were initiated to dismantle racial disenfranchisement. Breaking down barriers, Saturn's presence in Pisces dissolved artificial boundaries that have previously separated segments of society along racial lines. There was a spiritual awakening and transformation on a deeper level. Individuals in South Africa experienced a sense of spiritual awakening during this time. The journey towards healing and reconciliation began, although it would take years to fully address the legacy of apartheid. In summary, Saturn's transit through Pisces in the 1990s marked a period of profound change, breaking down barriers and paving the way for a more inclusive and just South Africa. And now we are experiencing our Saturn return. So we are currently seeing a repetition of sorts. As well, we have been going through our Saturn return. We also won the Rugby World Cup again in 2023, as we did in 1994, which brought our country together. We also now again see South Africa at a pivotal point in history, making history, I believe, strongly with this election in May 29th of 2024. This is truly an opportunity to upgrade South Africa and to turn it around. Could this be a partnership between the DA and the ANC? During the last Saturn return, or during the last Saturn transit in Pisces, we also saw a brain drain as educated masses left the country. We now see the reversal taking place, with Uranus at the fourth making reversals, especially with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So now in the conjunction with Jupiter of all planets, we are getting a brain gain, all whilst we're going through our Saturn return of maturation, of coming into fullness. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus in our fourth and angular house, thus, that opposes the government, is not only affecting the country on all major levels, including financial digital currency, but also innovation regarding the rail system, aeroplanes, agriculture, land, new discoveries, ultimately signifying a revolution that may at first feel destabilizing, but ultimately it is creating a new order. Maybe we can say even an experiment of sorts. But now we have the opportunity, Jupiter, to be brave and go for what we may have thought would never have been possible before, that always seemed out of reach, to make it happen. Uranus brings turnarounds, reversals, revolutions, such as the French Revolution. This is miracle energy and definitely an opportune time to turn the country around, to liberate ourselves from the past, to emancipate ourselves from the old way. We enter uncharted terrain, full of hope and electrically charged with possibility, as Uranus is not only the awakener, the earth shaker, the earthquaker, but the lightning rod of innovation and vibrating at higher frequencies, upgrading, doing it differently, unusually, in surprising ways, uniquely our own. I'll cover previous times when there were Jupiter-Uranus connections in South Africa, as we can expect similar topics now to be revisited in some way. In 2003 and 2004, there was Jupiter-Uranus connections. There was a Duva power station explosion, January 2003. This incident had significant implications for energy production and safety. There were ceasefire talks, January 2003. These talks aimed to address conflict-related issues in Burundi. In 2004, there was the arrest of Asher Carney in January 2004. He was alleged to have supplied nuclear technology to Pakistan. Mercenaries was arrested in Zimbabwe, March of 2004. Third democratic elections, April 2004. Discovery at Blombos Cave, April 2004. This finding provided valuable insights into early human history and culture. FIFA World Cup bid, the 2010 FIFA World Cup bid, May 2004. A momentous achievement for the country. Nelson Mandela retirement announcement, June 2004. The SAS Mendi commemoration, August 2004. Wreaths were laid in remembrance of those who died in service of their country. Another time was 2010 and 2011, where we had Jupiter-Uranus connections. The FIFA World Cup, June-July 2010. South Africa hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup, marking the first time this prestigious sporting event was held on African soil. This tournament brought together teams from around the world, with Spain emerging as the champion and the Netherlands as the runner-up. Jacob Zuma's inauguration was May 2009, and his leadership had a significant impact on the country's political landscape. In 2011, the Dalai Lama had the visa controversy of October 2011. This decision sparked debates about human rights, international relations, and China's influence. There was the passing of notable figures. Several prominent individuals passed away during this period. Albertina Sisulu, anti-apartheid activist and widow of Walter Sisulu, in June 2011. Kader Asmal, politician, in June 2011. Magnus Malan, Minister of Defense in July 2011. Jacques Duplessis, an Afrikaans actor, in June 2011. King Makobazweleza Zandile, I'm very sorry if I mispronounced that, Rarabe King in July 2011. Al Debo, South African actor, comedian, and singer in July 2011. John Christoffel Kannemeyer, writer and authority on Afrikaans literature. Christoffel Kannemeyer in December of 2011. There was also railway developments. In terms of infrastructure, South Africa saw the delivery of General Electric Type C30 ACI diesel-electric locomotives for Transnet Freight Rail in January 2011. Additionally, locally built Class 43,000 locomotives were rolled out in July 2011. These events reflect the dynamic socio-political landscape and cultural milestones that shaped South Africa during those years. In 2017 and 2018, we also had the Jupiter-Uranus opposition. And during 2017, we had a drought in Cape Town and the Knysna fires. Cape Town faced a severe water crisis due to prolonged drought conditions, leading to water restrictions and concerns about day zero when taps could run dry. The Knysna fires in June 2017 devastated large areas of the garden route, causing loss of life and extensive property damage. There were economic downgrades and corruption scandals. South Africa experienced economic downgrades by credit rating agencies, affecting investor confidence and economic stability. Several private companies, including Steinhoff, Oak Bay, and KPMG, were implicated in corrupt dealings. Life Esidimeni tragedy. The Life Esidimeni tragedy involved the transfer of mental health patients from private families or private facilities to ill-equipped NGOs, resulting in the deaths of over 140 patients due to neglect and poor conditions. There was a rise in femicide. South Africa witnessed a disturbing rise in femicide, highlighting the urgent need for addressing gender-based violence and women's safety. The African National Congress Elective Conference. The hotly contested African National Congress Elective Conference took place with 7 candidates vying for the presidential position. Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa emerged victorious, securing the ANC presidency. Prominent figures lost. Notable individuals were Lundi Tiamara, Joost van der Westhuizen, Ahmed Katrada, and Joe Mafela passed away during 2017. 2018, there were human rights and rule of law challenges. While South Africa had a robust judiciary, the government's record on human rights and respect for the rule of law was poor in 2018. Issues such as corruption, poverty, and crime continued to impact citizens' rights. Protests against President Jacob Zuma took to the streets. These are also the events now that reflect the complex social political landscape and challenges faced by South Africa during 2017 and 2018. So we can expect repetition of some of these topics in some way, not necessarily negative, but definitely in some way. To top it off, we recently entered our transiting Pluto in Aquarius first house square to natal Pluto in Scorpio 10th, a true shift of power from the government to the people. When Pluto forms a square aspect with itself in a country's birth chart, it sets the stage for a profound metamorphosis, a cosmic tango between decay and growth. Let's explore this celestial choreography. Intense transformation. Imagine Pluto as the cosmic alchemist stirring the cauldron of collective destiny. The square aspect is like two titans locking horns. It ignites upheaval, dismantling old structures and birthing new ones. South Africa, under this celestial pressure, faces a time of reckoning. Confronting shadows and wounds are part of this. Pluto's square compels the nation to confront its shadow selves, the buried histories, the unhealed wounds, and ancestral echoes. Like an archaeologist, we're unearthing ancient artifacts. South Africa digs deep into its psyche, and the past resurfaces, demanding acknowledgement but transformation. Power struggles and regeneration. Power dynamics surge, institutions, leaders, and societal norms grapple for dominance. The old order decays, making way for regeneration. Think of it as a cosmic compost, the breakdown that nourishes the new growth. South Africa's collective soul churns, seeking renewal. There is breaking of barriers and resistance now. Stagnant patterns crumble. Walls erected by fear or complacency crack open. Resistance brews. Loss of security, whether real or perceived, stirs defiance. Yet resistance brews. The snake sheds its skin, but shedding isn't painless. South Africa grapples with what to release. Beyond identity boundaries, the old identity, like a cocoon, no longer fits. South Africa stretches its wings. The nation grows beyond historical confines, seeking a rebirth once again. Reflective practices become allies. Meditation, introspection, and collective soul searching. Higher aspirations and lessons. Amid difficulty, there's a beacon. Aspirations. South Africa pushes forward. Lessons emerge about power, resilience, and claiming personal authority. The cosmic square invites courage, the audacity to rewrite narratives. Miracles in the cauldron. This isn't mere astrology, it's alchemy. Pluto's crucible transforms lead into gold. South Africa stands at the crossroads, once again, holding both past and future. The cosmic wind whispers, embrace the unknown, liberate, emancipate. Lastly, I wanted to mention that on the 29th of May, we have the Sun, Venus, ruler of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunct in Taurus, and Jupiter in Gemini, duality, two choices, voting, coalition energy, positive energy for positive change. We have its ruler Mercury in Taurus, the opposition to government house, with Uranus the liberator and the revolutionist. Mercury and Venus are in mutual reception and understand each other. The moon is in Aquarius, the people. The first house affecting the country, the ruler Mars of government in the 10th, is in Aries, conjunct an old wound, triggered, could be a revolt, but a pain spot that we are in the process of healing. Indignity and rulership with the North Node moving us forward to the new, sextiling the stellium and Sun in Gemini. Change that looks different and is based on innovation, surprise, curiosity, wisdom, tolerance, flexibility, compassion, and cooperation. The inside degrees for 21 degrees of Aries, Mars in Aries, the ruler of our radix 10th house of government and 3rd house of elections, placed where the sun exalts, is the sapience of the inside degrees of pastel flags fluttering in the breeze, calling attention to yourself, making a show of things, demonstrating a path to follow, strongly urging that others move in the directions you are initiating, persuasive, insistent, reiterative, playful and twinkling on the outside, but entirely intent on the inside, pushing and pulling for optimal outcomes, eloquent, ideological. You tend to be fanatical or zealous, pressing outwards, far outwards, identified with a style, a sensibility, a progressive evolutionary wave. You are sharply on the spot of pivotal changes, calling the collective attention to what comes next on the horizon. Greatly gifted with the talents of transmission, nothing else distracts you from the leitmotif of making the new attractive and sparkling encouragement, empowerment, and destiny momentum with elan and utter dedication. I'll end with a quote by John F. Kennedy. The state is the servant of the citizen and not its master. I will link my previous South African video on how Pluto in Aquarius may affect us over the next 20 years down below. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others that may find this useful, as it also helps me to grow this channel. May the sun shine bright on you this day. May there be blessings coming your way. The past whispers, but the future roars. It's time for South Africans to paint their own dawn. Until next time.